So I'm just making a little follow-up video to my unboxing of Spongebob Squarepants Battlefield Bikini Bottom Rehydrated for the PS4 Standard Edition. My god, that is a fucking mouthful. So, yeah, it's a typical thing for any modern game that you can never just play it straight away. The fact that the PS2 version will boot up and start and load a level quicker than this. And I'm not just talking about updates. This is just part one of my initial thoughts. Because at the time of recording this, I'm currently about halfway through the game. Total. Because I've completed 4 out of 9 levels. And 2 out of the 3 major bosses. So I'm about halfway there now. Ish. But my initial thoughts on this is that this game, that day one patch, I'd hate to see what it was like before that day one patch. Because this game is pretty poorly optimized for the standard PS4. And I'm talking about this from a PS4 perspective, and I can see why the Switch version had, because I heard that the people who were playing on PC or on an Xbox Series X or even a PS4 Pro who got early access, who were reviewing it, reported pretty much next to no issues. Which is fine for them. The problem is that for everyone else, because the vast majority of people don't have an Xbox Series 1X or PS4 Pro. And if you do, then great, good for you, but I'm just saying the vast majority don't. The majority of people who are going to be buying this game are either going to be buying it for a standard PS4, a standard Xbox One, or, the Switch version. That is probably going to be the vast majority of people buying this. And the problem is this game has bugs. It has quite a few bugs. For example, Hans, in my experience, about 70% of the time, he actually fails to load in, and the game just cuts on that. And also loading times between when you die, and also the teleport boxes, and even when you go from level to level, it takes so long to load. It just takes so long to load. Which, again, considering, the original version, which is, which is reading directly from a disc, the original version is just reading from a disc. That version loads considerably quicker than this version. But also, a lot of the sound effects don't work, and sometimes things don't pop. Like, for example, platforms don't pop up properly when they should do. They just don't appear. But some of the other stuff is, for example, there was a point where I got stuck in place in the Murmur. I just was completely stuck. Now, thankfully, it wasn't a game crashing bug. Thankfully, although I was frozen in place, what I basically just did is reloaded the area, and thankfully that sorted it. For the most part, I'd say about 70 to 80% of the time I was playing it perfectly fine, but then I'd run into some glitches. Again, most of them were not game-breaking ones, apart from when I got to Sand Mountain. And this wasn't a glitch necessarily, this was just poor optimization. Because Sand Mountain, when you are going down those hills, particularly the second hill and the third hill, this thing just painfully chugs along. And unfortunately, there are bits where literally the game will freeze slightly, or the frame rate will literally go down to 10 or 15 frames a second. The problem is the counter is still going at regular speed, which is really irritating when you're doing the time trials sections, where you have to beat Mrs. Puff, Bobo Buddy, and Larry's times. That makes it 10 times more difficult, because you're trying to obviously, make quick turns, and unfortunately you can't, because the frame rate just goes, and also the resolution goes a bit pixelated. And I was looking through the settings to see if I could turn down the graphics, but you can't. At least not on the PS4 version. You cannot turn down the graphics, which really is irritating. There is no graphics option to turn down the graphics because, I would thought maybe if I turn down the resolution maybe to 720p, then hopefully everything should run smoothly, but there was no option to do that, unfortunately, and it just kind of chugged along through it. It basically was pretty poorly optimized. Those sections, were close in times to being unplayable. And also, the update for this, the update, I believe, was about 3 gigabytes, 3 to 4 gigabytes. This day one update was about 3 to 4 gigabytes. So, again, I'd hate to see what condition it was in beforehand, to be honest. So that's a lot of the negative. The positives are that everything else seems to be fine. For example, Jellyfish Fields, Downtown Bikini Bottom, they seem to run and play just fine. No problems there. Apart from that one issue with the Murmler, no issues there. The characters seem to run a bit slower than I remember. They just seem to go a little bit slower. Something actually that is slightly improved, that is improved from the original, is the sponge ball is much, much better to control. Although some of the controls, in general, need a bit of fixing, because for some reason, a lot of the time it will only let you, for example, when I was doing the Robot Patrick fight with Sandy, for some reason, when you're swinging, it will only let you it won't let you do a double jump and hold on that. It'll only let you do a single jump, but sometimes it does. So sometimes the controls are a little bit iffy, but the sponge ball in any of the sections, it controls much better than the previous one. I think because basically you're moving a bit slower than the original one was. The controls feel a little bit tighter for that. So I was happy with that. Most things, again, for general purposes, it runs fine, but the problem is that this does need more optimization to it. It needs those bug fixes. And you might be saying, well, it's only day one, but yeah, so what? This game, should be finished. Like they announced about a month ago, I think it was 23rd of June, that they said, yep, game's finished, we can go into production and that. In fact, it might have even been before then, it might have been in late May. And I think that's the problem with this. If, they'd allowed people to actually get, have a proper demo available where people were able to test it out, then maybe we could have had some more feedback. Because you could have gave feedback, and I actually did give feedback. There was a thing where you could give feedback on the footage and that was seen, but apart from, a small amount of YouTubers who actually did get to play it, mainly the ones who won the speedrunning community, then that they got to play this. But yeah, it sounds like I'm really negative about this game, and to be honest, I like it better than I thought I would. To be honest, I do like it better than I thought I would, but those glitches, some of them, it's not like in the original game where you have to intentionally, to break the game to get out of bounds for speedrunning. You can still play, and for the most part not have any issues. This one, it does have issues, and they do need addressing. And the reason I'm addressing them, because, if you don't address them, then they won't get fixed, essentially. If you don't complain about something, then there's no incentive to actually fix the issue. Also noticed during dialogue sections, the lip syncing was a little bit off. in places, not during actual cutscenes, but during dialogue segments, lip syncing slightly off. Slightly off. Well, then that's fine. As I said, for the most part, this game, it feels like we're close. Where I would say we're about 85-90% of the way there, but there's that 10% that's an important 10%. As I said, I haven't played the full thing yet. Yeah, because I've only played about half of it, but there's enough there to just go, yeah, there's a few issues here or there, but there are things that I do prefer about this one that I do the other. For example, I do like the fact that you can see where projectiles aimed at you are going to land, so it's easier to avoid. In the original game, you couldn't see that. You just have to kind of guess where the projectile was going to land, but in this game, the floor will sort of light up red with a target, so you know where the projectile being aimed at you is going to land, so it's much easier to avoid in that state. The game is, to be honest, I think in some ways it's easier than the original. It could be because I'm older, I don't know, but it did feel like I could produce one a lot easier. But again, there's just a few controls that need to be tweaked. And also, something weird is that when you're talking to any of the characters, if you want to continue talking to them after they've finished, you have to leave. You have to go away from them and then go back. You can't just press the button to continue talking, which I found a bit weird. The original game didn't have that. Why does this one have that? It's a little bit odd, that, to be honest. But again, it just needs to be optimized, I think. If your PS4 Pro or Xbox One X or PC version is running fine, then great, good for you, but it kind of sucks for the rest of us who are playing this version, because again, this is a finished game, and also, I have paid for this. I have paid, the full price for this, so, I should get a game that at least works properly. That's all I'm saying. But it sounds like I'm being really negative, but it's just things like that irk me, because Battle for Bikini Bottom is a game I truly do love. It is definitely in my top 10 favourite games of all time. So I just want the best for it. In terms of what I said in my initial thoughts, for example, the Spongebob model, I did get used to it. When playing it, I did get used to that Spongebob model. And pretty much all the other models and that fine. Something I didn't mention is the one thing I find a little bit weird and slightly unsettling at times is the human teeth that some of the characters have. For example, Patrick has them, Plankton has them, I think Mr. Krabs has them, and it's kind of like with the original Sonic design, it's like those human teeth, they just look, I don't know, just look a bit off, those human teeth. Because Spongebob doesn't have them. He just has his two buck teeth, and then only occasionally if he's like actually smiling, where you actually see his bottom teeth, but most of the time you don't. It's just, black on the inks. So I think that kind of helps to it. The same with Sandy, she looks fine. I think it's just with Patrick, it's like seeing two rows of teeth 100% of the time. I don't know, it just looks a bit unsettling, because you just don't see that in the show. Most of the time in the show, you don't actually see his teeth. So I think that's why I find it just a little bit off and a little bit unsettling, and I think it's the same with Plankton and Mr. Krabs. You're not used to actually seeing their teeth 100% of the time, and just seeing all of them just being, human teeth. It just looks a little bit, it's just something off and unsettling. Something I'm pleased about is that the game is obviously very vibrant, but the saturation is nowhere near as bad as it was before. I know they talked about initially in that initial recording that the game capture card made it look saturated, but basically later plays from people who got the alpha version, it still showed as being pretty saturated. But this one, I mean, the colours are still saturated, but it's not too overly saturated. For example, the colours are still very vivid, and it is a very bright, colourful game. But it doesn't look quite, as much as it did before. In some cases, it can be beneficial. For example, downtown Bikini Bottom does look a little bit more vibrant, a lot less pale than it initially did. So I think in terms of stuff like that, it does benefit it. Other than that, I can't really say much else on the game. I'll let me know if you'd like me to do a second part of this. I probably will once I've completed the game or basically done every level, because I don't know if I'll bother going for every single patch of Patrick's socks just to 100%. I'll basically, complete every level of the game and get all the guns patch as I can. But I don't like going for endless, fetch quests to go get the socks. But maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it is what it is. And I do enjoy it, but again, it just needs that optimization. So I'm hoping that the Purple Lamp, the team behind this, can actually, just give it some more optimization for the regular versions of consoles and the Switch. To be honest, I think if you optimize it for the Switch's level of hardware, the other consoles will be fine. I mean, PC, you can only optimize that one so much to a certain point, because every PC has different configurations of hardware. But in terms of console, I mean, basically you've got PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. That's it. That is it. Just three different versions to optimize it for every console there. And then you can obviously have the enhanced versions. Although seeing that, I was looking on the back of the box, and this version, this game supports 720p, 1080i, and 1080p. So, yeah, there's no 1440p or 4K version supported, at least from what it says on the back of the box. Whether there is, and then a 4K enhanced version. I don't know. I think it is available on 4K for PC, but consoles, don't know. But yeah, basically, that's it for this initial thoughts. Again, I'm saying, well done to Purple Lamp. You gave a pretty good job, and it is pretty faithful to the original game. There are just a few things, but like for example, the control tweaking slightly to be a little bit more responsive. But the major thing is the frame rate and the glitches, particularly during the Sand Mountain. Fix the slides on Sand Mountain. The slides, I mean, to be honest, it's the same with basically every slide, but particularly Sand Mountain. When you're doing the time trials, that's where it seems to be at the worst. If you're not doing the time trial, it does fare a little bit better, but when you are doing the time trial bit, it does lag more. So that's just my experiences. Again, yours may be completely different. Who knows? But I'm aware that I am recording this. I say it on the day. It's technically, if you look at the clock in the corner, the day after it comes out. So hopefully we will get patches and things fixed up. It's just really annoying because I had to wait nearly an hour to actually play this. After bloody updating and installing and oh god. So yeah, at the same time they're saying that I have played it for about at least, how many hours have I played it for? Must be about 6 or 7 at least. So yeah, overall that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.